and then ultimately what the output is. The output is then the next line, which is the athletes. And I think anytime you take over a program, I took over at Chandler Gilbert, what kind of personalities did I want? And who was I getting? Was I recruiting players who wanted to play at the next level? Are we recruiting players at Pepperdine who have aspirations to play on and become pro? That, I think, is a lifeline to how you're going to be those 4 years with those players, or 2 years out of 2 year, is if their aspirations aren't to play on, how inspired will they be as it relates to your coaching, as it relates to your vision? And so I think those aspirations of personalities have to match your vision, or else there's going to be some kind of disconnect. And I'm probably going on a ledge a little bit, but is the reason why we're having transfers in terms of high numbers because of this disconnect, coaching and aspirations of players. And then the final thing is community, right? Your players will be connected to a bigger person pool, which is the athletic department, academically, the classroom, and then obviously the conference. And I think as it relates to brand, and I'll get into this a little later, understanding the conference, the league, the area, the region that you play in matters as it relates to your vision of a brand, and then the brand ultimately becoming fruition. So I talked about the staffing, coaching staff. I think there's a few things that you have to be able to answer as it relates to optics and messaging, right? Because again, staff is important. If Kristen has a vision of her program and the four of us don't connect that vision with messaging and optics as it relates to the community, then there's going to be a disconnect where we can't recruit the players that we want, right? And so anytime we look at staff, I think there's about 5 things that are important. First, cohesiveness. How well does this staff blend? At LMU, my boss there at Julie Wilhoit, I mean, she didn't tell me this during the interview, but after I was hired, she said, there was only one reason why I hired you over the other person. And I was like, what? I can have a beer with you. I mean, it could be that simple, right? Just to be able to just sit with someone, have that conversation, and be able to just communicate goes a long way. How prepared are you? Is everyone on staff have the ability to prepare the team for the next, whether it's the next game, next season, next stage of their career? Communication in game. How well do you communicate? Are you seeing the adjustments needed? And then what is the staff as it relates to what happens after a loss or adversity? And I think, even in my tenure, and I know a lot of you out there have been coaching forever, I mean, we've seen friends and we've seen staffs fired simply because of how they reacted after a loss and adversity. And so I think this has to be mindful from head coach down to assistants as it relates to the optics that you're giving out to your players, as it relates to what you're giving off to the players' parents, and then what you're giving off to those communities.